FM or its management.
Hello, good afternoon. You are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And on today's show, I am honoured to have Robert Hopkin. He is the CEO and founder of an organisation called ASICS, which is a platform for inclusive technology, amongst other hats that Rob wears. Welcome to the show. I can't hear you, Rob. Just bear with me one moment. Zohab, I think.
Yeah, that would be me. Sorry, lovely to be with you. Very lovely to be with you.
Can you put your volume up just a little bit more, slightly?
Yes, of course. Is that better?
That is much better. And any louder that you can get, then that
would be. I will scream at my computer.
So welcome to the show, and good to have you here today. Whereabouts in the country are you?
I'm based in Crystal Palace in South London. Is where I live, and have been holed up for however many months, as many of us have been. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's been a very, very peculiar time, isn't it? We're all sort of trying to navigate, the new kind of ways of working and just living, really. And if you'd like to just, tell us. I did mention that you have a few hats. So what are those hats, Rob?
Yeah, so I've spent the last 16 years as a consultant, predominantly in the energy sector around low carbon energy systems is kind of my background, and then through those experiences, spend a lot of time getting teams to collaborate better, to solve problems, make stuff happen, which then led to the creation of Axis as a technology platform for making collaboration more inclusive, more engaging and more effective. So sort of dual passions there around low carbon energy systems. It's quite I'm a bit geeky about it, if I'm honest. And then also how people collaborate and work together to do important things.
Yeah, well, it all sounds like very important things that we all really need to know, especially because it being inclusive and collaborating is just such an important part of our working day. And you founded the organization ASICS some time ago. Tell me a little bit about how that came about, because obviously you was working for 16 years in one industry, and then you innovated by developing technology. So what was the transition there?
Yeah, so in my job, I spent a lot of my time facilitating groups of people to work together effectively, and felt that when you have a great meeting, right, and it's well structured and it's clear what you're there to achieve, and the right people are in the room and everyone's motivated and the conversation's inclusive, everyone has their say, their voice is heard, you get real diversity of thought, you get a real bias to action and making stuff happen, right? It can be amazing, right? I mean, those kind of sessions can change the direction of teams, they can change the direction of whole organizations. But I think, like many of us, have equally been in meetings which have been the absolute antithesis of that, right? They've been rubbish, right? And particularly in the current situation, people just switch off, right? And that's a real shame, because that's people's time. That's potential lost, right? Every meeting is a time for a harnessing of the power of a diverse set of minds, and when that opportunity is lost, it's really is squandered. And so with that sort of mindset of how can we take and distill down the essence of what makes a great meeting, which in our mind is the effective facilitation of it, right? So creating the right set of activities that the people can do together, and then facilitating that in an effective, structured way, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to have their voice heard, making sure that you create decisions that stick and are made collectively. And we thought, well, why can't we apply technology to achieving that, which is what Axis then became.
Yeah, I certainly did find that there can be problems in meetings that are supposed to be cohesive and collaborative, but yet people aren't getting their voices heard. You find people that are fairly quite dominant speaking,
Yeah.
and then other people that are quite shy, or not sure if they, if they can say something. And you have people that are in the meeting that have neurodiversities, that are from different spectrums and intersections, and it's very important that everybody feels inclusive to get their voices heard. So when you said, that, some of the, with the best intentions, that of having a meeting, and that you want these outcomes, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So I was going to actually ask you, well, in part, you did answer my question. What were some of these problems that people were facing, where people were facing that, very often, you could be, diversity of thought is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think everyone recognizes, and there's a lot of literature that shows, diverse groups of people make better decisions. They come up with better, more innovative ideas. So I think the question of the power of diversity is well understood. But having diverse people in a meeting isn't sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient, right? You also need the process to be inclusive. There's no point having a diverse group of people if one or two of them dominate the process, right? I mean, you might as well just have those one or two people come up with whatever they're doing, right? It's sort of pointless. And again, the dynamics that lead to that dominant effects and lead to certain people, groups of people not having their voice heard, again, are well documented. There's a lot of research into women being interrupted more. Your character, your personality, are you more introverted, more extroverted? The power of hierarchy, do people just follow the boss? Groupthink, where we all collectively follow the same ideas. These are well documented and understood, and yet we kind of put up with it, right? It's just an accepted way of working. We've done interviews of people from a variety of different backgrounds. We've ran some great workshops on our platform, actually, to get people's insights into their own lived experiences of being in meetings where they're not being heard. And it is a corrosive and it happens to everyone. It happens a lot, right? This is a big problem. So that's why we felt that something needed to be done about it.
I've seen the technology and I think it's awesome. And I was blown away actually when I started to play around with it, and I thought, why didn't somebody think about this before? It was just like, a no-brainer to me, really. So I think there's two questions here. Like, I know that it's very difficult because people can't see it, but how does it work? And, what are the sort of benefits of using? What are the sorts of things that, clients and people have kind of been saying as a result of being able to use a technology that is very inclusive and gives everybody an opportunity to have an input? And of course, this leads to better business outcomes.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So, I mean, where we started was that, good meetings do happen, right? So there have always been well-run meetings that, hit on the important things in terms of inclusion, engagement, impact. And so our starting point was, well, to understand what are the characteristics of those good meetings, and then to see how can technology help scale those characteristics so it's simple and easy for anyone to quickly capture the essence of that and replicate it in every meeting that they do. And so what the technology, what it really is a series of activities that you can do to collaborate, which are proven, right, and have existed in many cases for years, right? So design thinking is a technique, a way of getting people to collaborate more effectively together. Some sort of old school kind of strategy frameworks, different ways to help people collaborate. And we digitize those techniques in a way that makes it very simple for anyone who's like, I've got a session to run. I've got 30 minutes. What do we really need to do? Well, we need to generate some ideas collectively, and then we need to prioritize them, and then we need to come up with a series of actions. And so it's very simple to select the right activity to achieve those outcomes in a way that then flows together in a step-by-step process. Because the reality is most people are very uncomfortable facilitating meetings. You're really putting yourself out there, particularly if you want to do something a bit different, and do it in a more proactive, facilitated way rather than just allowing the dominant person to talk, right? Which is kind of the often the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And so we recognized that for people to make that leap to do things a different way, it needed to be easy and simple. and to give them confidence that it was going to go well and be successful. And so we spent a lot of time then thinking about, how do you create that session, and then on the day, how do you run it in a way that is a step-by-step process that anyone can follow with a high degree of confidence. And then the other side of it was just making sure that it was all basically smartphone based. So what we do is we convert people's smartphones into a digital interface, like a sticky note, into which they can create ideas, they can vote and score, and then that's all immediately visualized, and you can see the collective output. And the big benefit of that, I mean, the fundamental benefit of it is anonymity and simplicity and ease of use, because so many people are uncomfortable putting forward ideas that, particularly those that challenge orthodoxies, the status quo, the power hierarchy, whatever, or make people uncomfortable, or if they feel that they'll be associated with them. And the fundamental thing is lots of people just have a fear of being seen as wrong or missing the point. And so this allows everyone to put that content forward, and then it allows that to very easily then be prioritized by the collective. Because that's the other thing. And if you watch the dynamics in meetings, even if you gave everyone the opportunity with Post-it notes to create ideas, and then you say, okay, guys, in a room, let's vote. So let's put stickies on the ones that we want to prioritize. If you watch what people actually do, they watch where other people put the stickies. You can literally see it happening, right? Just the behavior towards that kind of conformity, right? As we naturally conform. And so, the digital approach allows it to be a totally secret ballot. You can't see how other people are placing their votes. You get a much greater diversity and challenge of that, and you avoid that conformity effect. So that's what we've done, is we've built that technology that's embedding, that principle of anonymity, principle of simplicity, principle of collective decision making in a way that then people can apply to most meetings they run. And we've done loads of cool things, like we've developed the safeguarding strategy for a local authority. We developed the inclusion, diversity, and sustainability strategy for the events industry. It could be used for all sorts of things, right? So that's us. That's what we've built.
Yeah, it's just awesome, because when I had the trial and I was playing with the technology, and I realized, I could use my mobile phone. So interactive, so inclusive, and actually, I've just really, really blown away with the amount of things that you could do unanimously and autonomously as well. And I think that, anonymously, I was meant to say you could be anonymous and your ideas out there without feeling, is that going to be, am I going to say the right thing? And, are people going to judge me? And actually I had a little giggle when you said everybody kind of follows the rhythm of the Post-it notes, because actually, when I think about it, in meetings that I've been in and workshops where we're trying to, gather, if we're in a committee and we're trying to sort of like put together collective idea, that it does happen naturally. People sort of, very often people sometimes feel a little bit intimidated of being unique and coming out. But that's where the richness of diversity of thought comes from. It comes from actually not following, not being sheep-led, but actually saying, I have independent thoughts, and actually from that the richness comes, and then the opportunity to grow that product or service or objective in-house actually. It's and what have your I'll just brief you on the question, and I'll come back to it after the break. So I just want to be thinking about the benefits.
Yes.
That the organizations have said that, that they have received from using these types of technologies. And then later on, we're kind of going backwards. So I'm going to find out a bit more about you, and that will feed into all of why diversity inclusion is very, very important, and how all of those things merge into the overarching objective, which is to increase equity and inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion for a better society and ways of doing things. So please do not touch that dial. You are locked into the Power Hour with myself, Louise Power, and my guest, Rob Hopkins, and we will be right back.
Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your giving saves lives. Your support has provided more than 3 million people with access to clean and safe water, emergency relief in natural disaster and crisis-affected areas around the world, supported orphans and needy children with a better future. This year, your help can do more. Donate your zakat, sadaqah, and charitable donations to any of your chosen projects. Call us now 0300 30 30 777 or visit us on minhajwelfare.org.
Ahoy there, matey. So you want to be a pirate, do you? Well, guess what? You now can at Fairlock Country Park. Come and hire one of our fantastic new boats at the lake. Find us on the tube on the Central Line or drive down from East London. Fun for the whole family, har! You can row, pedal, or even try kayaking. We're open on weekends, all school holidays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come on down and set sail at Fairlock Country Park.
Thinking about selling or letting your home? With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk. Alternatively, contact our sales team now on 07944 56 5616. That's 07944 56 5616.
Waris Food Store, the place to go for all your meat and groceries. We stock thousands of items from fresh fruit and veg to all your favourite Ramadan food products. Based at 420 Hoe Street in Walthamstow, we can deliver anything you need right to your doorstep. Just give us a call on 0208 521 0000. Waris Food Stores is now also available on Uber Eats.
Taj Grill invites you to the world of Pakistani cuisine. With every dish prepared to perfection, why not try our sizzling mixed grill, our famous masala fish, or choose from our selection of freshly made curries and allow the Taj Grill experience to speak for itself. Visit us at 72 Ilford Lane or 508 Ilford High Road, or call 0208 262 6476. We also offer catering for all your events. Call us for more information.
Nikah, talaq, counseling on matrimonial disputes, Islamic wills, Islamic law of inheritance, or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service. We provide official certification, and our experienced and highly qualified imams are available to provide you with guidance when needed. MQI London is based at 292 to 296 Romford Road, Forest Gate. We are open from Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. or alternatively, call us now on 0208 257 1786.
Revive FM
94.0. On the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello and welcome back. You are locked into Revive FM on 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship, and inspirational stories. And in the studio today, I have had Robert Hopkin. He's the CEO and founder of ASICS, which is a platform for inclusive technology, amongst other things. Welcome back to the show, Rob.
Lovely to be with you.
So Rob introduced himself, and then he was speaking to us about his 16-year career and what he has been doing, and then introduced us to the inclusive technology that he is a founder for, called ASICS. And he was speaking to us about some of those problems that happen in the boardroom or within the organizations in terms of collaboration, in business meetings, just across the board in terms of those types of collaborative kind of meetings. And then Rob was speaking to us about the benefits, and he was going to tell me when we return now about what some of these organizations have said about how that has helped them in cohesion and collaboration going forward.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's the crux of it, right? What are you trying to achieve? What do you get out of it? So, most organizations, all organizations that we talk to are very, understand the importance of harnessing the power of the diversity that exists within the organization, and ensuring that many voices are heard, and that's targeted at solving big problems, driving innovation, getting stuff done. And so the ultimate benefit is the quality of the outcomes that happen within those meetings. And you can look at that at an individual level, right? As a leader, you might have a leadership team getting together. One can set their 12-month strategy, and the quality and alignment and detail and specificity that you get out from that process. And Louise, the point you made, there's almost like the orthodoxy set of views, this narrow view that is often the kind of like what the status quo, and then there's the ideas that are outside of that are often the ideas that really make change happen and really do something exciting. And how do you reveal that and make people aware of it and see it? And then so that's like an individual meeting, but when it gets really exciting is then when you start to scale that across an organization, and you start to look at the regular meetings, particularly with bigger organizations, where there are regular meetings that are fundamental to the cadence of getting new business, transforming and becoming more operationally effective, coming up with new products and services, understanding what customers want and need. And then that's where it can be hugely powerful. We've had a pharmaceutical company who used it with patients who had long-term chronic conditions. And, the platform was used with a group of those patients to understand their experiences during the diagnosis and then ongoing treatment journey, what had worked and what hadn't. And that was so that they could think through how can they make that experience better and support doctors to better support their patients. So, it can be used in lots of different ways whenever you're wanting to source that input, and then be confident that you're going to get a better quality output and more impact as a consequence.
It's really good at supporting the pipeline, isn't it? And the framework of what it is that the goal that you're trying to reach. And without that kind of sort of quality assurance in a way, things can kind of fall off. They can drop off in between, restarts, resets. Where did we go again? Or what was that again? Oh yeah, lost in transition. Oh, a little bit swayed away in emails and phone calls, and then back again, and actually, it could prematurely or temporarily stop business from progressing as well. So
absolutely.
So I'm presuming that the technology has been extremely beneficial in reaching the common kind of goal. And considering the work that you do every day in your you must come across these things all the time. So just tell me a little bit about your career, your 16 year career, and where are you from, and what did you go straight into the study, or is that something that you wanted to do straight away, or did you kind of like get into that field of work later on?
Yeah, so I grew up in south of Manchester, where my mum and dad still live today, and my sister and her family, I suppose I've been continually indecisive, right? So I did a degree which was a sort of combination of multiple subjects, because I didn't really know which subject I wanted to choose, and then I went into consulting, because again, it's sort of like allowed to do lots of different things, right? I wasn't ever sure. I mean, my sister's a pharmacist, and wanted to be a pharmacist from the age of like 14, and she was very definitive. That's what I want to do. She sort of was interested in being a doctor, but can't stand blood, so that was not on the card. So but for me, I'd never really known exactly what I wanted to do, and went into consulting with the hope to just sort of learn about business and how the world works, because you get taken into different situations. There's a problem that you need to solve, a question you need to answer, and loved it, and got very focused into energy systems, which has really got ever more interesting as the world looks to decarbonize, and my area of speciality is electricity systems, which is sort of doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the early phases of our decarbonization journey out to 2050. And so, was working in that industry and dealing with electrification of transportation, renewables, and how you integrate renewables into the energy system, all those kind of things. And as part of that, obviously, there was a lot of collaboration that was done, whether it was within organizations or across organizations, industry bodies, these kind of things. And so, and obviously this sort of new territory, right? People really do need to be innovative in that space, because it's no one solved the problem of how do we decarbonize the world. And so, I got really passionate about that process of collaboration and what is it that allows people to collaborate more effectively. And my wife's she was for many years an English secondary school English teacher,
right.
And so we'd also talk about, because that's another interesting dynamic of in a school, like how do teachers collaborate. And she did stuff. She then moved into safeguarding, children's safeguarding, in her local authority, so working with the police and with social services and the NHS to look at how they can safeguard children. And again, it's these kind of like complex problems. Like, there's no easy answer to these things. It's down to how do groups of people with different backgrounds and experiences and expertise come together and think differently, and come up with new ideas. And so I think that became a real passion, was that process that people go through. And then my friend for many years, Paul, he's into technology. He's always been into technology. He's a technology guy, right? That's his thing. And we thought about how could you apply technology to this problem, and sort of that led to us then getting together with my wife's cousin's husband, and actually my wife's cousin as well also works with us. So we're kind of, which is nice. On the design side, so they do all the kind of design and user experience.
So everybody's coming from different demographics, different backgrounds. The reason I was asking you actually about like where you're coming from, and when you went to study that, and was that something that you intrinsically really wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into it? Is because I'm just thinking that there's lots of different people from different backgrounds, maybe listening to the show or going to play it in the future, and I just thought about, there may be people thinking, I would really like to get into consulting, or I'd really like to get into the world of energy. But what kind of route should I be thinking about? Or I remember where I come from, I didn't really even know what consulting was, and it's an advantage that you had already known that that you wanted to get into consulting, and that you was interested in the world of energy and things like that. And so I just sort of like asking you a little bit about how you ventured into that career.
Yes.
Just so that it's just inspiring for other people to kind of hear about the where the line that you took, the road you took to get to where you are.
Yeah, and I mean, I think consulting it's like such a broad thing. Like, I mean, it's very, when your grandparents ask, "Oh, you're a consultant, what do you do?" It's very hard to explain exactly what it is, and there are lots of different things into it. I think it's changed, right? I mean, in those 16 years, the nature of what being a consultant has fundamentally changed, right? It's become much more technology orientated and understanding how technology can make things change. I think it's a great thing to be able to do, and I think in the low carbon side of it as well. I mean, there's a huge amount of change there, and lots of different things that you can do in the low carbon space. Because organizations just having to grapple with rethinking how everything works. So yeah, I feel very privileged to have been, in that electricity as those changes were happening, because you can, it has just been really buzzy and exciting and fun, right? And that's awesome to be part of.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I know that you wear a few hats, and within those hats, of course, you manage different people and you collaborate with different people at different levels and sectors. And in your opinion, what are the sorts of things that organizations need to be thinking about to be more inclusive? What are the kinds of things that they need to be thinking about in terms of to be more inclusive going forward? We've gone through lots of changes. We've gone through a pandemic. Most organizations now are working in a hybrid type of model where staff are working from home and a little bit in the office. Of course, people have got all kinds of things to think about regarding their health as well. So as a director and as a founder and all the different hats you have to wear, what are some of the things that you think organizations need to be thinking about to be more inclusive and more diverse?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a huge topic, and I don't want to claim to have answers across. But in a narrow space, we've done work with. We secured some government funding from Innovate UK, and we did a piece of work with UNIDA, who are specialists in gender parity in the workplace, and Purple Goat, who are a specialist in those living with disabilities and thinking through the implications of that in the working environment. And we focus very much, because obviously a big part of diversity is around recruitment and retention and those aspects. We didn't look at that. We were looking very particularly at inclusion and engagement in the working day within that kind of office environment. And as you said, particularly within the context of us now all working from home, if you're an office worker, obviously many people have continued to go into to their other place of work, and then this hybrid. It looks like we're going to have some kind of hybrid model in the future. Quite what that will look like, we don't know. But and so we looked into that, and we did interviews and lots of research, and there are some advantages to moving to hybrid and virtual. I think there've always been people who, for whatever reason, have had to work from home, and there's been sometimes a stigma associated with that, or a different set of treatments. I think now everyone's realized that there's nothing like having to walk in someone else's shoes and experience something so I think that's a good thing, is that people have had those experiences. But equally,
absolutely, I think people that I know, certainly as a parent, being at home and having to work with children, I think that was. You're nodding. Are you nodding? Because
big time. It's
let's talk
hard.
about it. Let's talk about it. Right? It's how did you find that?
I think in terms of what is really draining, being on an important call with people who are your potential customers or something, and having a screaming 1-year-old is like so stressful.
Yeah.
Like, it's really stressful. I think, I think it can be pretty hard. And I think everyone's had their own challenges, and I mean, we've had lots of privileges in this situation, personally enough, and it's different experiences for different people. But I think it hopefully has made people realize, like, and I know, historically before, COVID, I'd go out and work and then come back, and, you're not necessarily in the thick of that, of that. Also, homeschooling was, I mean, my wife's a teacher, secondary school teacher. And we've got 3 kids, Isla, who's 7, Ruby, who's 5, and Leah, who's now nearly 2. And, Isla and Ruby at school, and Isla, particularly very, very compliant at school, like very well behaved. Homeschool, not so much, right? And they just like they do anything their teacher says. Their parent teachers not at all, like no interest in doing what they're told at all. So yeah, that was tricky. And then you feel that you kind of, you're letting your children down because you're not teaching them properly.
It has so many different dynamics, doesn't it? You think, right, well, I need to get on and get all of these things done today. But yeah, you're looking at your child and you're thinking, I feel really bad. I need to make sure that they have something to eat and they have done some work. And after a while, everything would start off really, really, collectively and all together. Then I'd see my son throwing pens around and cushions and, jumping on a heap, calling it like a mountain. So it was like, I'll just get on with it, do PE, whatever, because I need to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I think for a lot of people, what they've been saying is that it's made them really compassionate. It's made them a lot more understanding. I think those of us, my son's a bit older now, he's 8, but some people that have got really, really young children, and sometimes they do cry and they're in the background and, pets are running past and stuff like that. And I think we've just got to a point where we have to live actually in a society where we're a lot more understanding.
Yeah.
And, we can't be so serious. And that's going to form part of our future and sort of like the way going forward. And in a very, very nice way, Rob, having used your technology, I see that kind of blending together as something, really, really great in the future as well, because people will be in different places, but yet still be able to collaborate, still be able to navigate the fact that they're at home, they're at a hybrid model, they're traveling, some in the office, some people in different places. So I think that that's another part of, and another really nice layer, and that you have diversity of thought. But yeah, I think your technology takes into consideration our new post-COVID way of living, our new way of actually being a bit more of an empathetic society, a lot more understanding, and then applying that to business and applying that to things that are very, very formal. So I think that it's a way of saying tech for good, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we because now people have everyone's experienced what it's like working from home, and I think more people will work more regularly from home. Certainly from my perspective, the relationship with my son, who was born just like a month or so before COVID, and then the amount of time that I've spent with him has been a huge privilege, like an enormous privilege, right? So I think to me it's kind of reframe that, and so I would hope in the future that I will have more of a hybrid work experience and be able to spend more time with my family, and hopefully the way the world evolves, people will be able to make those choices and hopefully be able to do so in a way that has less compromise. I think that's the important thing is people should be able to make choices that are good for them and their family, that don't then compromise other aspects of their life, particularly their career. And then when that comes down to involvement and engagement and inclusion within team collaboration, because if you're working on your own, you're responding to your emails or you're writing a document, whether you're in the office or you're not, it makes absolutely no difference, right?
Yeah,
it really doesn't make. I think the place where it can be challenging and you run this risk of almost having a 2-tier workforce is where some people are because at the moment everyone is not in the room, right? So everyone has the same disadvantage of being remote. The worry I would have is that as we move back to hybrid, is that those people who are remote are then put at a significant disadvantage in terms of being heard, being seen to contribute, influence over decisions, direction, those kind of things. And so that's why we were quite keen, and we see an important element of the technology is that it should create a level playing field. So whether someone is at home, remote, or in the room, they have an equal opportunity to put their thoughts forward and their ideas forward.
I know that one of the things that you've done as well is you've concentrated on gender parity, which is a very important subject for me. I have got a few businesses, and one of them focuses on disparity within the tech industry, particularly for women.
Yeah.
And it's very important for me that women have a place, specifically in the world of tech, where products and services are being developed. And of course, there's big, massive, marginally big for gender parity within the world of tech as well. Women, especially women from lots of different demographics and backgrounds, even more so. So when the fact that you have a workshop on gender parity and organisations can work through that, I just wanted to speak to you about why you felt that it was really important to look at closing the gap for women in organisations in the workplace, and of course even in your field of work. I can imagine within sort of like the carbon and emission industry as well, that those industries could, there's probably some disparity there as well for women even within those industries. And I really want to say that I think it's great that technology is specifically looking at how organisations can increase opportunities for women.
It's really important. So, I mean, our platform allows you to collaborate about anything, and one of the things we said to ourselves was, well, why shouldn't we make pre-built workshops specifically to help organizations address issues that we think are really important? And so, we obviously our purpose has a big diversity inclusion element to it. And so we felt, well, what we should be doing is we should be creating template workshops that anyone can use to run a workshop within their organization to address those kind of key questions. And we started with gender parity, and we did that with Unida, who are a specialist in gender and equality in the workplace. Research based, so it's free to use, so you don't have to pay to use it. Anyone can use it, and it allows you to have a structured session with your team, with your organization, or with people outside of your organization, however you want to do it, to answer the question, how can we what can we do to realize the full potential of the women in our organization, and what can we do to remove barriers, and there's some structure to that around ways of working, culture, policies, the different dimensions, and then thinking it through in time horizon. So what are the things that we can do immediately? What are some of the things that will take a bit longer, right? And then prioritizing them, and then being clear on actions and owners to really give that bias to making stuff happen. So that's there, and we'll be adding to that, right? So we want to have a variety of different workshops. So any organization that's really looking to address diversity and inclusion as an issue can use them to run those sessions on it.
What are some of the barriers maybe that have been coming up either in some of your conversations, or sort of like pre-research and pre actually putting that package together? Because some of the barriers that women come across are just like the ones that you hear quite regularly, where they don't maybe apply because they don't think that it's intrinsically more of a male-dominated industry. So should I really be applying? And then of course there's all of these kinds of things that are coming up all the time about the barriers for women. Sometimes it's even the way that the advert or the job description's gone out, and the way it's been written, like the language as well. And then the retention, because we touched on that earlier. Sometimes people get the roles, and they're recruited into those roles, but then they don't stay because, of course, they may be a minority in that situation. So, what are some of the barriers that do you think, in your experience over the years, that there's been, and that organisations may need to sort of be looking at?
Yeah. So I mean, I'd rather refer to what women have said in sessions that we've run, right? Because that's the they've had the lived experience of this. So we as an example, we ran a session with a group of senior female leaders from a number of different organizations to run this workshop. And what came out of that was it varies, right? So there were differences by organization once you got down to the specifics. Obviously there were common themes and ideas. So things around cultural behaviors, particularly around the promotion process and perceptions of success, and the role of self-promotion and networking as a factor in determining people's promotion was a number of people really, because obviously we did the usual thing of prioritizing structure, that was something that really came out strongly, was that it's very difficult to get an objective view, and therefore there's this whole palaver around the promotion process and sponsorship and coaching, which is often skewed in the favor of men. Some of the meeting behaviors and being interrupted, and having ideas taken, and again, I think the sad and depressing thing is lots of these things have been known for a long time and well evidenced, but this was very recently, and it's people, these are still their lived experience. But what was cool was that the group came out with practical actions and things that could be done, and different organizations were doing different things to help with it. So I think there's probably more of a will to deal with these things than there ever has been. So I think it's much more, I think it's more hopeful. Would be my opinion.
No, absolutely. I mean, I am a trustee for an organization called Changing the Chemistry, amongst other things that I do. And for me, one of my passions and one of my biggest objectives is to increase diversity in the boardroom, because of course the boardroom is where a lot of decisions are made at executive level. And I think that there needs to be more diversity across intersections, from gender to race, disability, LGBTQ. I think there needs to be lots more conversations and a transition of change in the boardroom for there to be real diversity of thought. How have you found things in the boardroom from your experience? I guess, the problems that we spoke about earlier, and the technology that you have, of course, I can imagine will be a lot more collaborative. But I also feel like there's some opportunities as well to be recognized to increase the diversity in the boardroom scenario.
So it's a really interesting point. I'll be frank with you. We don't really get used in the boardroom environment. Or we haven't historically. I think boardrooms are very kind of old school, like the approach. And obviously there's a lot of, governance and formality to how things have to be done. But I think probably that's maybe part of the problem, is that the way that board sessions are run, and you'll have a lot more experience than me in this, maybe isn't that conducive to open conversation. And again, I haven't sat in lots of board meetings, so I'm being presumptuous here as to what it's like. But I imagine that for big corporations, when it gets to the board sitting around, it's probably pretty formal. And I don't know how often there is a true open conversation and real breaking the thinking to think about things differently. I mean, there should be, but I don't know how.
Oh, there's subcommittees as well, that break off for particular governance subjects. So, I think that the technology would be phenomenal in a boardroom situation. It might not be practical for every type of scenario, but there will be scenarios where I think that something like that would be a really good opportunity for people to especially when people need to anonymize things as well. I've had that experience myself. So certainly something that ASIC's may be thinking about doing in the future. Because, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's obviously, as you said, boards are really they're the top governance level of any organization. And so, that's where very important decisions are made. And obviously there's this formalized process that you have to go through in a board meeting. I think it would be good to see those sort of behaviors change. It's just that it's quite secretive, right? Because it's that domain of where often there aren't external people let into the process. It's the kind of formal board process. But I agree with you. I think there's probably it'd be an interesting area to look into more, the dynamics actually of boards and how they collaborate and innovate and challenge themselves, because obviously boards are very susceptible to groupthink. I think it's a really very good point.
Yeah, and it's like you're saying, it's top level, and it's very important. And that's where a lot of decisions are made, and that's where the golden nuggets come from. So of course, an opportunity to not only be an inclusive board, but use inclusive technology. Then there's an opportunity to be really innovative and be a real change maker in our very, very, very diverse world. So what is next? What's on the agenda for you for the rest of this year with ASICS, and what do you have planned?
Yeah, so I mean, our ultimately what we want to do is we want to get more people addressing big important issues using our platform. So we're going to extend out our free diversity and inclusion templates, so covering a whole host of issues. I'm also trying to blend my passion for sustainability and low carbon with Axis. So we've recently done some work with the Centre for Digitally Built Britain. So they're run out of Cambridge University, and they're about how can digital technologies be applied to the built environment. So and particularly around decarbonisation. So wind farms, railways, all those kind of things. And we've built some templates to help organisations think about how they can use new digital technologies to transform the way they own and operate, build their assets. So I'm quite excited about seeing how can Axis be tailored specifically to some of those sustainability issues. And then it's always the same principle. Like how do we get it into more people's hands and increase our impact? Looking forward to working with you and thinking through particularly, and I'd love to get you involved in some of those templates. And how do we really, whether it's boards or whatever, but how do we get people approaching collaboration differently? That's
I've got lots and lots of ideas, and I would just like to say that I am absolutely honoured to be a strategic partner now for ASICS. So the Power Hour and ASICS are going to be working together in the future. So it's a lovely place for us to sort of announce that. And yes, I'm looking forward to working with you. And my mind's eye is ticking and going all the time about the sorts of things and the sorts of opportunities I think that it will bring about. And I can see that, inclusive technology is the future, right? It's going to be the way forward and the way to go in terms of actually having real diversity of thought.
Yeah.
We're going to be limited in the status quo as long as we stay this way. And I think the world has moved since last year when we've suddenly all been moved into this pandemic and the passing away of George Floyd, and then the whole world saying, well, actually, no, we need to live in a more inclusive place where it's more equal, where people, where we have equity and we have inclusion, and we live in a world where, it's just an all round best. Someone just put a piece of paper up saying "End of your show." So our conversation could go on and on. You are invited to come back in person. Hopefully next time we'll get some of the team as well. We'll have a bit more of a longer conversation. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed being in front.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Real pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation
and the live show. And we will meet again to speak more, and we'll let everybody know how things develop for us later on in the year or the eve of next year. So you have been locked into Revive FM 94.0 and the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power, and my guest, Robert Hopkin, who can reach you where if they want to connect with you.
So through LinkedIn or or Google Access and you'll see us.
Brilliant. Okay, take care. Have a great weekend, Rob, and all the best. Be safe.
All right, thanks very much. Bye.
Take care.
Turkish Kitchen, the best